Welcome everyone to Entrepreneurship Live. My name is Amanda Golden and I'm the program manager for the Herb Kelleher Entrepreneurship Center. The Herb Kelleher Entrepreneurship Center promotes the development of entrepreneurial skills and supports exploration of the ways these skills can be applied as to careers as founders or innovators within established firms. We are excited tonight to be joined by Vanessa Ogle, the founder and CEO of Enseo Holdings. Vanessa has incorporated entrepreneurial skills and innovative spirit throughout her professional career. And during tonight's event, Vanessa will be taking questions from the audience. So please be sure to use the Q&A box along your Zoom toolbar to submit those questions. As I said, Vanessa is the founder and CEO of Enseo Holdings, one of the fastest growing technology service providers in the US. With a 21-year history, Enseo develops hardware, software, and cloud solutions in hospitality, education, senior living, and healthcare. Vanessa is a passionate mother, wife, writer, musician, and inventor with more than 56 US patents. She has been widely recognized for her outstanding leadership and contributions to technology and regularly appears as an industry expert on national broadcast programs, including Bloomberg Radio, Fox Business, and Yahoo Finance. Vanessa earned her BBA in International Business and Marketing and a BA in Spanish from the University of Texas at Austin. Welcome, Vanessa. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. So happy to be here today.
Of course. I think a great place to start would be if you just take a few minutes to maybe share a little bit about your founder story with our audience.
Sure. Well, I graduated from University of Texas in 1991. So a long time ago. And I stayed in the Austin area. I went to work for my dad's company. I thought I was going to go to work in international business in Latin America. And so I remember me coming home after graduating and we kind of went round and round the kitchen table, and I didn't want to work for my dad and my dad really didn't want me to work for him. But it was just such a good fit. And so I lived in Austin and I was handling Latin America, sales and marketing to Latin America of our products. Although what turned out is that there were these really great new companies doing personal computers in Texas back in the day, especially in Austin and in Texas and Houston. So there was this small startup company called Dell Computers, and there was a small startup company called Compact Computers. And so there was more business for me in Texas than there was in all of Latin America. So while I did enjoy traveling back and forth to Latin America, I also had a lot of really good success with the startup businesses there. So shortly thereafter, we started doing some technology. I kind of was always fascinated by new tech. How do we solve problems with new tech? And that one thing led to another. And a couple of years later, I kept kind of grabbing more and more of the company resources for these special projects that I was doing for the financial services industry and the hospitality industry. And we did really well with it, and it was highly profitable for us. And we did an IPO at that company. So I was on the management team, and we did an IPO for a public offering. And then we did a secondary offering. And then we did a public company merger transaction with a big California venture capital based firm. And so that went on for a little while. And then as I was leading a business unit for that California-based business venture firm, I realized that they really were more about being glitzy and a lot of marketing show and tell without a lot of product. And so I started what is now Enseo. In some ways, it seems like it was yesterday, but it was 21 years ago in January. And so I convinced a good part of the team that had worked for me at the previous company to come and join me in this new venture. So a whole bunch of crazy people who were working for a $500 million company with a big market cap came over and joined me as a full-fledged startup. And it's kind of that, and that's where the magic started. So I had these brave souls who joined me, and we had a whole set of technology solutions from the first product that was ever. I know for you guys, you've always, you know what a guide is, you know what interactive program guides are. But back in the day, there were not program guides. It was, a flat screen that had a grid on it, and that's all you saw about what was coming on TV. Or even better, there was a paper booklet and it was called the TV Guide, and you literally bought it at the grocery store, where it was delivered to your door. And so we did the very first electronic program guide with video in a window and graphics, and there was crawling and scrolling text. And we digitized the hospitality industry, so the video on demand industry that was providing movies into hotel rooms at the time. We provided the technology underneath that core solution set. And we also did video on demand technology, the core solution set for that, for in-flight entertainment. So the very first, now again, everyone's used to watching satellite and planes these days, but back in the day, there was no such thing as seatback entertainment. So we put in the very first seatback entertainment solutions. And it was JetBlue and Frontier Airlines and WestJet Airlines and Alaskan Airlines were really on the cutting edge at that time. And that kind of progressed into a lot of different things. And then over time, we really became an expert in in-room entertainment. But it was this old style in-room entertainment. But there were these new things coming out called, over-the-top services, streaming services. One of them was this weird thing called Netflix. And I really liked Netflix. It was really a cool idea. And so I started talking to my customers, who were the people who provided the services to the hotel community, that they should be transitioning from the sale of these really expensive, $20 movies into hotel rooms, into doing things, letting guests bring their own content into hotel rooms like Netflix. And everyone told me I was crazy. And they said that was just a stupid idea. But I really thought it was a great idea. And I couldn't shake the fact that I really thought it was a great idea. So from being the core technology provider for all of the vendors in the space, really around the world, cruise ships, Europe, Asia, the United States, but we sold hardware one time. And then that was it. And these other companies got to keep making money month after month on our products and services. So in 2013, we announced that we were going to stand up our own systems integrator business to actually provide the services as well as the technology to the hotel community. And we did that. And we had 14 hotels that said yes to that solution in 2014, which grew to 75 hotels the next year, which to over 200 hotels the next year. And we're sitting here today with over 1,900 hotels using our technology solutions. And what that means, really, it's not 1,900 hotels. The reality of it is over 70 brands. Actually, we're 80 brands, and over 80 million guests a year watch television, listen to their music, and now it's expanded, right? So now we do Wi-Fi for guest rooms and IoT, so we control all of the lights and the thermostat. So you don't have to actually touch the remote when you go in the room. You get to use your phone and control the entire in-room experience from the time you walk in to the time that you get to your room. And really, we were doing quite well at one of the fastest growing companies in the world. And we expanded into also employee safety solutions. And we did those employee safety solutions not only for hotel employees, but my real passion was to provide that safety solution for students. And so that we had some panic buttons, or don't panic buttons, that teachers and or students could wear, that when there was a problem on campus, they could push that button and it would automatically geolocate that student or that teacher and who that person was, so that we could get first responder help, appropriate first responder help to that individual as soon as possible. And so that was really beginning to take off quite well at the very beginning of 2020. And last year was kind of a major hit to the hospitality industry, as everyone knows, from a travel perspective with COVID. And we did what we always do, and we developed new products, and the team dug in and really did some crazy, amazing innovation and launched a whole suite of new products to help all these other companies, including our current customers, come back to work and play and and do that safely. And that's kind of where we are today.
That's such a great story. And I am old enough to remember the scrolling TV guide and the pain of getting to the TV guide right after the channel you wanted to see
Yes, yes,
scrolled away. So then you had to sit through all the other channels.
yes.
Technology innovation has really bettered our lives in many ways.
Yes, the struggle was real, Amanda. The struggle was real.
Absolutely, it was. And so you ended sort of touching on COVID and all of the, just instability and unexpectedness
Yes.
associated with that. So I want to go back to that time with
Sure.
you briefly. And, you know, given that your company's focus is on providing technology to what you would term people places,
Yes.
um, you know, to talk to us, through what that initial impact looked like when people places were shutting down and people weren't going places. They were staying at home. What was that initial impact for all of you?
This is kind of the third time this has hit us. I feel like I really decided to pick an unlucky set of customer solutions, because it hit us at 9/11, and then it hit us in the financial crisis. Now it's hit us again with COVID. People places have been inordinately hit. But because we survived through those other market downfalls, we knew we had to act quickly. Our hotel customers were obviously devastated, just devastated. Our budding school market, this wonderful budding school market to help protect the students and teachers around the country, was devastated. And they had to focus on, how do we teach kids when they can't be here? How do we keep them safe when they're here? And the hotel industry was basically just trying to hold itself together. So we reacted quite quickly, and strongly, with some cost saving measures across the board, including really difficult ones. We put a big part of our team on furlough. We did a small layoff. We did big, huge salary reductions across the board from start to finish. And we were very thankful and appreciative of the government assistance that came in the form of the PPP loan. And unlike many of my CEO colleagues that I know quite well, we did apply for the PPP loan. We were absolutely exactly who it was intended for. And we used 100% of it to bring our people back to work. So in the group of weeks while people were at home, we had a team that was called CAT. And the CAT team was the team that was that core team whose job it was to make the right choices and to put ourselves in the right position and to get a good product plan in place, so that as soon as we could figure out the funding, we could bring everybody back to work and accelerate our position in our marketplace. And the team did it. They did a beautiful job, and we were supported by our customers when we gave them pricing support. We allowed them to close their hotels and shut off service, which shut off a huge part of our revenue flow. And some people, you guys who are taking contract law right now, you're like, you're in this beautiful world of perfection of, I have a contract. It says they have to pay me, so they have to pay me until they don't pay you. And then there's really nothing you can do because they don't pay you. You can't even go after them to pay you because they're not there. So, we took a very partnership approach and approached our customers to ask them how we could assist them and how we could help them. We went to our vendors and said, we need your help so that we can help these guys so that they can help the guests. And really everybody pitched in, everybody worked together. And it was beautiful how, the whole industry came together so that we could, be in a good position to continue the services we had before. And then we were madly scrambling to create new products and services that would help us come out of it faster.
Yeah, and I'd love to touch on that actually, because since COVID, you guys have piloted many new offerings,
Mhm.
right? You
Yes.
just kept innovating throughout it. Some of those include, innovations that allow hotel guests to check in at a virtual front desk,
Mhm.
or using their cell phones to track if their rooms have been cleaned,
Yes.
and working on energy saving devices, as you mentioned in your founder story, to use your phone to adjust the temperature and
Yeah.
everything in the rooms, and turn electricity on and off.
Mhm.
Um, and while all of that was going on, you were facing, these tough decisions of layoffs and furloughs.
Yeah.
Your family was personally impacted by COVID. So, how did you balance that? How did you lead all of this innovation with all of these other things going on at the same time?
You know, First of all, I have no idea. That's the short story. You don't know how you're going to react in a crisis until you get there. But in retrospect, everything's about, everything's relative. And there's nothing that puts things in context more than the health and safety of your children. So while I was doing the Zoom interviews with my team to tell my team that we were doing this layoff, while it was horrific and awful, I had my child on a dog bed behind me, hooked up to oxygen, and her pulse oximeter that she was showing me every few minutes. So as we were trying to decide and working with our home doctor, do we go to the hospital now? Is it now? Because their breathing kept getting worse and their oxygenation levels kept getting worse. And we were really, really, really sick. Like, we were really sick. We were sick for months and months and months. And the girls had all the things that you talk about, right? Yeah, they had the red splotches all over their body and their blood pressure dropped. And I mean, it was a whole thing, but nothing made the work stuff more relative than that. In understanding that the first thing that we could do is to take care of our team. And so we sent our team home immediately. Like, before anybody had sent their teams home, we sent our team home. We stopped travel, we stopped trade shows. Because if we take care of our team, then they will be there to do their jobs and to take care of themselves and their families. So the first thing we did was just really, from a culture perspective, focus on taking care of our team members and their families, including mine, who were right behind me on the floor. And then, obviously, you want to think about something that's positive. And again, nothing helps being relative like having a child behind you. You can't just sit down and go, oh, it's terrible. Because then your kids are like, what's wrong, Mom? What's wrong? I mean, they're already not feeling well. So it really also helped promote we can do this. Like, we can do this. We will find solutions. We will help things get better. That's what we do. We create new things. We make things work. That's what we're known for. It just works. So what do we need to make work better now? How do we make this happen? And we had this incredible team that, first of all, it's hard. Like, the emotions and the energy level of a team when, first of all, you're not surrounded by your team anymore. Right? Like, we were in close quarters. We were in a small building that we were really literally bursting at the seams with. We had people piled upon other people, like people in the hallways, people in the conference rooms, like people sharing desks. We were piled in because we just signed a brand new lease, but they hadn't finished the renovations of the new building. So we were just a few months out of getting into our new building. And so you go from this environment where everybody's so close together to all of a sudden isolated and at home and with people that they really care about without any knowledge of whether or not they have a job.
Right.
Like, what's going to happen? And so we've really focused on our team members and put them first. And by doing that, we just got a response from those people that was amazing. And we got their creativity and their thoughts and their hearts and their souls. And they worked so hard. We are still working from home today, every one of us. And we celebrate everybody getting their vaccines as it happens. And we have seen zero decrease in productivity. Zero. Everyone has just done such a fabulous job. And they've just found new ways to work and create and collaborate and communicate. And the innovation that we see and the patents that we're being given and the new product launches are just a testament to the team and the culture of the team of really digging in when things are difficult and being able to figure it out.
That's great. And it sounds like, the culture that you guys created for just every day really helped you navigate when those tough situations arise.
It certainly did, but because, I was a weirdo who brought my kids to work every day, right? So from the time I got pregnant with my kids, they literally came to work with me every day. There's so many fun stories about that. So I knew if I could do it, anyone else could do it. So I wasn't worried about people, making things work from home. We just had to give them the flexibility to let that happen. And so I think, again, part of it's trust. Like, if you trust your team and you give them trust and you say, I know you're going to get your job done. If you need to take your kids to soccer from 4 to 5 or to ballet from 5 to 6, go do it. Like, your job's going to be here when you get back. Do what you need to do. We're still here. And when you encourage people to live their lives to their fullest, they give you their fullest when they're at work.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful. And as you mentioned, COVID was not the first sort of, storm that your company had to weather. Uh,
No.
After September 11th, you had to pivot your business model from providing support to the financial and travel industry,
Yep.
sort of shifted focus to developing electronic signs for retailers, movie theaters. And then during the 2008 financial crisis, that's when you guys began providing the technology for the in-room movie rentals.
Mhm.
So what factors did you consider through some of these major events and way when making the decision to sort of pivot your focus? And how did you decide what to do next?
So there were two parts to that. One, you have to survive so that you can decide what to do next. So the most important thing is to understand that there is nothing that's untouchable from a decision when you have to survive. And so, as hard as it is, and as gut wrenching as it is, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, as a manager, you have to make hard choices. And when you delay in making hard choices, you have fewer choices left to make. And so you have to act quickly. The other thing that really I learned through the first two financial crises that we lived through was that contracts don't actually mean anything. Now, get really good contracts, get really good contract lawyers, study well on your contract law. It's important. I'm not saying it's not important, but honestly, when push comes to shove, it's still a person that you're working with on the other side. And if they don't have the money to pay, they don't have the money to pay. If they want to work with you, they will find a way to want to work with you. If they have limited funds to pay with, if they like you, they will pay you first. The people that they hate, they will not pay first. So things that we did not as well in the first, like, we kept getting better. Every time we hit another financial crisis, we learned, like, man, I really wish I had done that. Man, I really wish I had done that. And so we just kept learning more about it, unfortunately, with some hard circumstance. But when this one came around last year, we were on it and we made really hard decisions, really fast. And we did pivot very quickly. And part of that is personal, personal level of risk.
Mhm.
Like, the right answer for everybody is not to push all your chips in again and again. That's not always the right answer. Sometimes the right answer is, I have had enough risk. It is time for me to go home. It is time for me to go work for someone else. It is time for me to get a safer job. So there's no right or wrong answer in what your risk profile is. But some of us are just kind of insanely built. And our risk profile, just like, I never dreamed that my team would not succeed. I never dreamed that they would not do what I asked them to do. So even when the financials showed quite clearly we would make more money if we got rid of all of the engineers and all of the product people, and we just kind of milked what we had until the market started to come back, right? And we knew a year, 2 years, just shut as much down as you can, pull it all back in, you'll make more money, and you'll still be here at the other end of the day. We didn't do that. We kind of went all in and said, no, we're going to build new things that people need. We're going to be in front of our customers as a good partner right now, so that when they decide who they're going to spend more money with later, that we're right there in front of them. And it turned out to be a really good choice for us.
It sounds like it. Absolutely. And based on all of that, it's no surprise that your company has been recognized for excellence and as one of the best entrepreneurial companies in America. And so, what you've touched on this briefly, but what sort of aspects of your culture and values as a company do you think helps facilitate that kind of recognition? And how do you encourage continued innovation among your employees?
Well, I'll take the second question first, if that's okay. How do we
Absolutely.
how do we focus on continued innovation with the employees? And the most important thing is to realize that great ideas come from anywhere. Great ideas come from everywhere. So there's not a group of people that are just the idea people, and then there's other people that are the doer people. Like, that's not how we work. Everybody is always challenged and always welcome to come in with, hey, I have a good idea. I know how we can make more money. I know how we can save more money. I know how we can be more efficient. We don't like to hear the words, that's not how we do things here. That's not how we've always done it. Like, that's not in my job description. Those would be some of my top 4 least favorite things to hear in the office from people. But our team doesn't operate that way. They all work on how can they do things better. And to do that, the trickiest part of that is you have to fail fast. You have to celebrate when people fail fast. And one of the things I think that makes that easier for us is because we do have our core of our business as a technology company. In a tech company, there's always bugs in your product. Like, always. Like, you can't build a tech product that doesn't have bugs in it. And the way that you create a successful tech product that works is you find the bugs really fast. And when you find the bug, you celebrate that you found the bug, because now you fix it, which means your customers don't find the bug. And so having that mindset means that we really did celebrate things that when people failed fast or found problems, it wasn't most of the time we didn't kill the messenger. I'm not saying that there weren't a few times where human emotion got in the way of doing the right thing, but for the most part, we really celebrate finding a better way to do things. Your first part of your first question, there's some core values that I see in the people that are really successful with us. And the people that are super successful, not everyone is successful at our team. We have a lot of we have people we love that they were with us, and we support them, as they choose to work somewhere else, because it is really a better place for them. We really need a level of resilience, a level of creativity, a level of, I know this one's going to sound weird from a business perspective, but kindness. We need kindness in our team members, and then determination, and listening bravely. We need brave listeners, because brave listeners know when to hear something that's hard for them to hear. And brave listeners know when they should hear what someone has said and say, I don't agree. I hear you, but I don't agree. And here's why. And here's the solution that I have. And so those are, I think, those are the things that we see as core values, and the people that are the most successful. And they have to be bright.
Yeah.
We have a lot of really bright people.
I love the idea of embracing failure as a way to learn and fix and move quickly and make it better, have a better outcome in the end if you learn from it. I think that's great.
Yes. Yeah, it works surprisingly well.
So one of the things that we focus on in our center is helping students to understand the importance of finding solutions that will be supported in the market, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of problems that need to be solved, and there's a lot of ways to solve those problems. But what is what do your customers want? What is the market going to support? So what is your process for evaluating new features or new products to ensure that what you launch will be supported by your customers?
This is such a great question. And I will continue saying every time anyone asks me that the most important decisions that we make are the products that we say no and we don't take to market. So it's not the products that we chose to take to market that have made us successful. It's the products that we've chosen not to take to market, which has made us be successful. Because we are bootstrapped, right? You have to find it before you can do anything else with it. So we have to actually make sure that every dollar counts, every hour counts. And so to that end, we're not a huge believer in if you build it, they will come. Because what if you build the wrong thing? Or what if it's too expensive and it's above market requirements? Or what if it doesn't quite work all the way? And so what we do is we brainstorm And we gather ideas from the market and we gather ideas from our team. There is a fake Henry Ford quote, and it's a fake one, but I love it anyway. So I'll quote it as a fake Henry Ford quote, which says, if I asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And he made the automobile. Now, again, I understand that that's a fake quote, but it's still like just so dot on. You can't always ask your customers what you want in a technology innovation world, because they're not technologists. They don't know the building blocks about what could be brought, but they know what their pain points are. They know where the opportunities to do better are, or where they're having challenges. So if you listen to your customers, then you can pull together the things that they need. But then we have gates in our system. And so our gates are, is it technology feasible? And that has a few gates in it, which is, are the components available? When we put them together in a weird way, did it work enough to meet our, okay, that's good enough for the next step. And then we have financial criteria, which, is, are we going to make money with it? Is it going to meet the market requirements? Is it competitive to other ways to solve the same problem? Is there a business proposition to this that's a successful one? And there are many, many products that we've had in our time that, we had high definition before high definition was cool, and we put it on the shelf because it was too expensive. Yeah. And then we had high definition that was cheap enough, and we put it on the shelf again, put 4K on the shelf again, because the televisions that it took to play that, even though we had our technology down to a price point that was great, the television price point wasn't there. And so the market solution still wasn't viable. So it's really important not just to focus on your little piece of the pie or your product or service, but to look at all of the ancillary products or services that are required to bring your service or product to your customers, to make sure that that entire ecosystem is viable and supportive. And so at any point in time during that set of gates, if we fail any of those measurable items, then we shelve the product.
I really like what you said about some of the best decisions you made were the products you said no to. Because I think a lot of times, especially for students, they get really invested in an idea, and it can be really hard to then decide to walk away. But what I try to tell students a lot is that being able to recognize that it's not going to work is just as important, if not more important, than being able to recognize that it's ready and that it's going to work, because at least you know that you don't have to continually put resources towards something like that.
You're so right, because if you spend too much, your resources are finite. Your engineering hours are finite. Your marketing hours are finite. And so if you spend too much time on a product that's not going to bring you what you need it to for your business to be survivable, then you're losing an opportunity on another idea or product or service that you're not putting your engineering or marketing ideas or sales ideas behind. And so understanding that it's not just the money that's finite, but the hours in the day of your team members, that if they're not focused on the right product, it's worse, because they're not focused. If they're focused on the wrong product, they're not focused on the right product.
Right, exactly. And I also really appreciate what you said about sort of being able to see not just what your product does, but how it fits into the larger scheme of all the other pieces that your product would impact, right? And I think a lot of times people get very focused on my product or service will solve this thing for these people, and not necessarily think about or explore the impact of the product or service in the larger context. And I think that's a really important point that you raised there for entrepreneurs to consider.
It is. And it's also an opportunity for entrepreneurs in that, yes, you could be the next Michael Dell, who creates the next ecosystem of the personal computer. It's possible. But there are a lot of people who have made a lot of money off of creating things that weren't quite in that umbrella of the Michael Dell product line, and were just as needed and just as important. Think about how much money has been made off of cell phone chargers. Right? Or cell phone covers, or screen protectors, or the shops that fix the glass in your phone when it breaks. So don't stop yourself from looking at the entire ecosystem that you are interested in. Find something you're interested in for sure and that you have passion about, but it doesn't have to be like the big shiny thing in the middle. It could be one of the really nice things around the outside, because the beautiful thing about, the Goldilocks world where we live is that it's not too big and it's not too small. It's just right. And so we're not competing with the big boys in the space, because it's too small for them to be interested in, but it's big enough for us to have a really nice, fast growing middle market company. And we're bringing innovation to the world. So it's, don't look around the things that you like. Don't look straight at them. Look all the way around them and find something where you can bring value.
That's wonderful. We're going to switch to audience Q&A here in just a minute. I'm going to ask one more question, and then we're going to switch to audience Q&A. So
Great.
Another reminder to our audience, if you have questions, there's a few already in the chat box. Please be sure to put those in there in our Q&A box. Vanessa, you have your undergraduate degrees in marketing and international business, as well as Spanish.
Yes.
And now you are the CEO of a highly successful tech company. So talk to us a little bit about why a business education is important for students currently focused in science and technology, and what business concepts you think are most important for those students to sort of focus on if they're thinking about taking their science and technology background and applying it in the business world.
So such a great question. And of course, I couldn't do my job if I didn't have the scientists and the engineering technologists behind me to make my ideas a reality. And so they are, without a doubt, we just couldn't do it without each other. We're lockstep together. But at the same time, if you ask the engineers who have worked with me for 20 and 30 years, they would all tell you that they couldn't do what we've done without me and our business team, because they need what you guys are providing, and what you provided to me is a core set of knowledge in good decision-making skills on evaluating opportunities, understanding the operational intricacies of a business, and really being able to dot the I's and cross the T's of how do you bring a product to market successfully. And even things so simple as accounting practices and payroll practices and paying your taxes properly. Those are the areas where smart ideas go to die. There are so many great ideas that had fabulous engineers and fabulous scientists behind them that did not make a successful business. And a lot of the slipping that happens is not in the idea of the product. A lot of the idea where it slips is in the execution, whether that's in the sales, the marketing, the international expansion. And so just those core tenets of how do you think about a business? How do you think about a market? How do you successfully, back to the last question you asked me, Amanda, how do you decide, do you proceed on this product or not? Oftentimes in my interaction with my technology team, they will come up with a better idea, often. But when we look at that better idea, we grade it. It's only a better idea if it makes us more money. I have all these patents, but it's not about the technology. It's really about the market viability of the products. And so are you always looking? You can always make your software more perfect. You can always make your software more perfect. But is it going to make you more money to make your software more perfect? No, it won't. There's a point at which it is good enough. And some companies don't finish it enough. And so it causes them so many problems that their operational costs go up from a support perspective. And so it's really helpful to have a business person or a business mindset as you're making these decisions, because it is easy to get caught in the architectural purity or the excitement of being first to market, or getting shiny patents on the wall, or getting good coverage in the news. It's easy to get caught up in that. But at the end of the day, you have to have your business successful enough that you can continue it and then grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, I tell students a lot of times you want to be passionate about solving a problem and finding a solution, but not to be so attached to the solution that you miss signs that either you need to go in a different direction or that it's good enough, or that that's not the right direction. You don't want to get so attached to the solution that you lose your objectivity to being able to make those important choices.
So true. And sometimes you can have the best product. And if you don't have the best relationship, you still don't get the business, and you still don't win.
Right.
And so, all of those pieces are important. So making sure that you are looking at the totality of the opportunity is really core to entrepreneurial success.
Absolutely. Well, we've got some audience questions here, so I'm gonna read some questions from our audience. Um, so first question, what do you believe creates an entrepreneurial spirit?
I I know this is a weird answer, but I don't think you can create an entrepreneurial spirit. I think you either have it or you don't. If you were the kid that had the lemonade stand, you've got entrepreneurial spirit. If you've got stuff on Etsy, you've got entrepreneurial spirit. But I don't think that you can create it. That's my opinion.
Um, do you have tips on how you would build a team that can help bring your products to market? So, maybe what sort of characteristics should people be looking for when they're looking at building their team?
That kind of goes back to those core tenets that we talked about earlier. Um, I feel so honored to work with the team that I am working with today. I am working with a powerful group of men and women they're just powerhouses, and they're so good at what they do. And our business is growing so fast today because of their capabilities in their areas. So the first thing is, make sure that you're not scared to hire people better than you. You should hire people better than you, because you need your person in that job to do their job better than you. And so if you're looking for people who, go back to that core thing, you're looking for people with integrity and kindness, who are bright, who are hardworking, who are creative, who are resilient, who have determination. And I like working with people that I like. I think that's important. If you are in the trenches as an entrepreneur day in and day out, now you can't just hire your buddy that was your roommate because they were your roommate. That's a bad choice. Like, that's just a bad choice. But someone that you wouldn't mind being around 10, 12, 18 hours a day, someone who you can trust if someone starts throwing arrows and stones at you, who's going to have your back. That those are really important choices.
So the next question is: there are still very few females in CEO positions nationally and worldwide.
Yes.
How can we close that gap and help more women get there? And what are some of the main obstacles that you faced as you built your career and got to where you're at today?
Yeah, I think the latest statistics on this are less than 4% of CEOs are women. And less than 1% of CEOs are women of color. I'm Latina, so I'm in that less than 1% category. The best way that we can get more women in CEO positions is to get more women in the workforce, and to understand that we can have women in the workforce, and they can truly be women in the workforce. They don't have to pretend to be a man to be successful in the workforce. I had to create my own company so that I could drag my kids around with me all the time and travel with them, and have them in and out of meetings, because that was important to me. I think we've got a unique time in our world right now where, because of COVID and because of people working from home, everybody's used to people walking in and out. Everybody's used to the dog in the background. I've got my dog on the dog bed here. Everybody's used to kids doing what they need to do. So there's an opportunity for women to really step forward in a way and choose to take a place in the business world as a woman, and not sacrificing their other roles that they have. It's important to them to do that, whether that is, daughter, sister, mother, wife, whatever, or friend. But you don't have to pretend to be a man in the world now. And to do that, we have to have men who are supportive of that. We've got more women than men now on our executive team for the first time in the company's history. I was the only woman on our board and on our executive team for more than 10 years. And I started putting time and attention not into hiring women I did not put time and attention into hiring women. I put time and attention into recruiting, not just men. I went to the normal recruiter around the corner and said, I need another CEO. He's going to have 10 to 20 guy CEO or CFO. He's going to have 10 to 20 CFO candidates for me. They're all men. I had to be selective, and the recruiters that I looked for, and putting words out into my network that what was I looking for, and that I was looking for a balanced, diverse workforce of the best people I can find. My CFO, Kristen Reichert, she's amazing. And a friend of mine who's a CEO, she was his CFO, and he's like, you would love her. She's, yeah, you guys would get on, like, it would be amazing. You should try to hire her. I couldn't hire her because she was so done with the whole world for that moment that she needed to go home and spend time with her kids. But in that interim, almost 2 years, I interviewed so many men, and they just didn't have that spark for me that Kristen had. And I was like, I'm not going to settle. And she's back on the team as of several years now, and it's just made a world of difference having the right person in the right seat.
I really like what you just said about not settling, because I think that's really important, when you're building your team, and not just filling a position to fill a position, but making sure you have the right person in the right position.
You have to have the right person. There's only so many seats on the bus. You have to have the right person on the right seat, because you don't get to put anybody else in that seat. So, but a part of the other thing that we do is we are working not just to have women on one level of the organization, but to have a diverse population of color, of age, of sex, of gender throughout the entire organization. And really, like, we recognized last year that we do a lot with interns. And when I looked at our intern program, one of my old white guys on my team said, our interns are really white. Like, did you realize how many white guys we have as interns? And I went, yeah, I didn't. Wow, we really do. And so this year we are making an effort to make sure that we get a more balanced, diverse population of interns, so that we are supporting and encouraging as many different kinds of people as we possibly can, because that gives us balanced feedback, which makes us a better company, which makes us able to make better choices.
Absolutely. Also, it helps, bring more voices for innovation, right? Because a lot of innovation comes from, having new voices at the table that aren't typically represented at the table.
Yeah. Diversity brings more different creativity, and it makes the whole company better.
Absolutely. Did you know that you wanted to found a company in college, or did your passion for entrepreneurship develop later on?
I don't know that I wanted to found a company. Although I guess that may be a misnomer, because I was actually running a business out of my dorm room at UT. I was selling memory modules for my grandfather, who had a memory distribution business in Oklahoma City. And that was kind of, they needed more memory in these computers that we were using. And I got in trouble. Because the memory modules came in these little kind of square metal foil pouches. They were thin, and they were little metal foil pouches. And so people saw a whole bunch of people coming to my dorm room. I was at Castilian, and I would take money, and then people would get their little foil pouch, and off they would go. So campus security shows up one day banging on the door. I didn't even know at the time what was happening. And it was after it was all over that my roommate told me that they thought I was running drugs out of my room. So, but I was selling memory modules. And I kept doing it. I kept doing that. So I would say, no, I didn't want to run a company, but yet I was actually running an enterprise while I was at university. So maybe that's not completely genuine.
You had some undiscovered entrepreneurial spirit there, right?
I always had entrepreneurial spirit. That was always there.
So for my last question, I want to switch focus just slightly.
Sure.
And talk to you briefly about your hobby outside of technology and innovation. I understand that you are super into music, and the magazine called you the rock and roll CEO, which I just think is like the coolest nickname, by the way.
It was awesome.
Great
Yeah,
nickname. You should make sure that's on all your business cards and everything.
it was really great.
And I heard that you have a band called Gem that is employees of your
Oh,
company. So please
oh,
tell us more about music
uh-huh.
and Gem and how that came about. And do you guys play at like company events? Like, how does this work? I'm very fascinated by this.
Yeah, so it was different pre-COVID, right? But yes,
Right.
so the band is made up of employee members and my husband and I. And we were playing at our largest and trade show event, and it started with I lost a bet, and I lost a bet with my salesperson, and they said, "Well, you need to get up on band with you need to get up on stage with the band at our party and sing a song." And then it was, you need to play a song. I'm like, I don't play the electric guitar, and so anyway, so I got on stage and we played, and it was such a big hit with everybody that our team, we have a lot of musical people in our team, and it was just wonderful watching everybody get together, and it kind of this started rolling and kind of became this thing, and outside of itself. So we started playing at all of our customer events, at all of our industry events. We got booked all over town, actually here in Dallas, to play in town. We started getting calls from venues saying, "Hey, can you guys play on Friday night?" I was like, "What?" I remember the first thing, they came out with an envelope with money in it, and I was like, "No, you don't understand. I usually pay to have the venue so that we can play here. You don't actually have to pay us to play." But then with COVID
Mhm.
and everything kind of closed down, right? And none of that was happening. But my husband and I kind of opened up in a whole new way. And he and I were at home, and instead of playing other people's music, we started writing songs. And so I had written my first song before COVID happened, like in the fall, and we had played it at one of our corporate gigs. And what we had played it actually at a private thing at town here, at just one of the bars and pubs around town. We played it there. But over COVID, like a whole bunch of my songs have gotten picked up now by 3 different producers all over the country. And so we are releasing our first single next month. And we have 6 singles that are launching over the next 6 months. And then our full album of 12 songs is releasing in, I think, June or July.
Oh
But
my goodness.
it's really hilarious. Like Cheryl Crow's producer has produced a song, and Tracy Chapman's producer has produced a song, and I mean, it's hilarious.
That
So
is amazing.
it's so fun.
I love this story, and
It's
I'm
so
looking
fun.
forward to hearing the single when it comes out. And you really are the rock and roll CEO. I think you just need to like own that now,
I'm
and
I'm
you
all
know,
for it. I'm all
yeah,
for it.
t-shirts, business cards, everything. I love it.
Thank you so much for the time. It's been wonderful. I've really enjoyed the questions.
Yes, well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been a wonderful conversation. I think, your experience can teach not only our students, but those who have joined us from the larger entrepreneurial ecosystem, just about the importance of being resilient and, failing quickly, as you said, are great lessons for all of our attendees to learn more about or to remember as they work through this process.
Amanda, one of the questions you asked was kind of what was one of the stories or challenges about how I got here. I know we don't
Yeah.
have time to go into it, but one of the things I also started doing this year was writing. And you and I have talked about this before. So I started publishing on LinkedIn a series called Unplugged, Vanessa Unplugged. And it is just a group of stories about, my challenges or my learning experiences of what it took for me to grow and run this business. And the most recent one, which was about April 1st, is a story about another Longhorn and she was my director of marketing. So if anybody wants to go read that story, it's pretty funny.
Oh, we'll have to check that out. I've read some of the other ones, and they're great. Lots of wonderful lessons, and
Thank
and thank you again so much for joining us this evening. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you to all of our attendees for joining us. I hope everyone has a great rest of the evening, and hopefully we can get back to more of our people places here in
Yes,
the very near future.
let's get up and go.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you, Vanessa. Bye.
Thanks so much, Amanda.